Alright, so we're going to take out this crank bolt here. Well, not all the way, for a few different reasons. One, time constraints at the moment. I'm going to have to do this in a couple different parts. So in the next part of the video, when I'm wearing a different shirt, you'll understand why. But there's why we don't want to take that all the way out. One, I got to get this flywheel out. Now they make flywheel wrenches you can put on there. Most of them are spring loaded though, and I really don't want to be right around there and that spring decides to the wrench decides to let go and spring back on me. That is not fun. The other reason is you have to use the bolt to push against, put jaws on that, pull that off. The next part, when I got more time to do all of that, I will showcase all of that good stuff. But for now, being the dumb guy that I am, and already knowing the answer that I wouldn't be able to get it, I try to get that off by hand. I wouldn't be surprised if that's been on there since the factory. You know, 170,000 is what I was told, so probably like 400,000 more than likely. But yeah, I didn't even budget. I had a 4-foot crowbar and a breaker bar, and I wasn't even trying to move. Luckily, I got a buddy that has a battery impact, because all I have is an air impact with no foreseeable power here, unless I wanted to do some customizing myself with the lonely light and light switch that I've got in my storage unit that is now leaking after some nice rainfall. But that's beside the point. Do what we got to do, right? So anyway, see if I can get this thing off of here with this battery impact. Let me see if I can get this set up real quick. Alright, so hopefully that stays there. Nice and windy today as well. 35 degrees and raining and wind. It's always a fun time. Okay. Alright, so since we're spinning that, I'm going to go grab my big bar. Like I said, I would not be surprised if this had been on there since the factory. I might have to end up bringing my air compressor in here. Sometimes bad by a hole. Alright, get some go juice. Okay, let's see what that does. Alright, let that sit on there for about a minute. Let's see if we get any there. All right. Do one more shot here. I might be having to do this with the compressor. All right, one more shot with the battery impact. If that doesn't get it, I'll have to bring my compressor out here and give that a go. So there you have it. That's how you don't remove a crank bolt and a Gen 4 Vortec motor. To be continued. Alright, take 2 on removal of a crank bolt in this motor here. So, last time I soaked this with some rust inhibitor. Probably didn't do anything because I really needed to get to the threads. That stuff does chase into threads pretty well, but I didn't have a good angle to actually get it in there. But it soaks into metal too, so the crank pulley actually has some of that stuff soaked in. I do have this to heat this up, you know, because there's nothing flammable around here. The stuff I sprayed, the oil on the floor, or the loads of cardboard I've got back there, but it's fine. It's all good. We'll be good there. The other thing you got to be careful of if you're going to use one of these on this, I'm not reusing any of this stuff, but I would like to sell it, make a little bit of money back. I don't know what crankshafts with broken bolts in them are going for these days, but I can only assume it's less than a crankshaft without a broken bolt in it. So if I heat this up and I break the head off that bolt, at least I can pull the crank pulley off, and then I can figure that out later. But if you're doing this and you're going to reuse any of that, you obviously don't want to do that. So you can heat it up, let some of that heat transfer back into threads, and let it cool down before you get an impact on there and twist the head of the bolt off. So let's see if this stuff loosens this at all. Nope, sure didn't. All right. Let's see how this goes. All right. I'd actually prefer not to touch that. Go get my stopper here. Okay, I don't know how hot that is. I really don't want to find out. I don't have to. did actually move a little bit. Built up back there, it's good. Everything behind this I have a replacement for, so again, if you have to reuse any of this stuff, I'm going to be a little more cautious than I am, but at some point you just got to get this thing out of here. Hey, there we go. That's all it took. Okay. I don't want to take that all the way out, so I got to be able to push against that to actually pull that crank pulley off. I'm gonna let that cool down a little bit though, but I need that to be in so I can get these bolts out of the flywheel. I've already loosened them up because I knew that would be a little bit easier after messing with this thing. So I'm gonna leave this locked in so it doesn't turn over, and then I'm gonna remove the bolts out of the flywheel, get the flywheel out, see if I can get this crank pulley pulled off of here today, if it pulls off enough, because I really don't want to burn myself. And I can start working on pulling the main caps. So main caps do have, which I'll go over that whenever I do get able to pull these. It's a 4-bolt main, and it's got 2 in the end there on the bottom, going into the sides. So each one does have 6. If you're going through to pull those out, wondering why it's not coming out, you do have those on the sides come off as well. Pretty sure they're all different sizes too, so that's pretty cool and fun. But anyway, we got that loose without setting anything on fire and without burning myself, so that's a win. I'm going to do some boring stuff. If I have enough time to get the other stuff going, I'll be back wearing the same shirt. If not, maybe a different shirt. I don't know. Maybe change shirts just because. Alright, so we're going to go and pull the crank pulley off of here. You got to keep the crank bolt in. I'm going to use a 3-jaw puller. I think this one's an 8-inch. I'll take one of these off to try to get this thing to fit in here a little bit easier. So I'm just going to put this back together. Now this is the fancy set that you can only find at the Arbor Fiat. I think I'm saying that right. I think it's French. Somebody can correct me if that's wrong. But I got a set of 4 3-jaw pullers for a decent little deal. So They do make a set that's, I think, supposed to be specifically for the LS. It's got a little bit wider tips on them in the back where it actually grabs. If I can get this off of here, I'll show all the little nuances to this. Get these things adjusted can be a pain sometimes. So you want these a little loose. So you can finagle them around. Oh, probably should have thrown this in a little bit more so you don't have to watch me do all that. Okay, I'm actually going to bring that out a little bit. Okay. I believe this is a 17 mil end on this thing. When you are pulling LS, Vortec, pulley off, you want to try, hopefully keep it from spinning for one. But you want to pull from the inner ring and not the outer ring, because I'll show you once I am able to get this thing off of here. But it does have a little kind of rubber ring between the inner and the outer. You can actually separate this thing and may not even know it. You got to put it back on and it's out of balance and cause all kinds of headaches. So it's pulling this off here, but it's binding a little bit, so I'm going slow. I'm going to strip my threads out, but not be good. Making progress. Bottom out against my bolt though. Not to break those doors, that would not make the wife happy. Do everything, that's the number one goal, right? Don't piss off the significant other. Got a nice big hammer. Could very likely take this thing off of here, but I don't. All I've really got with some weight behind it is this thing, which is going to stick in my hands. Not going to sound very good on your end, so I'm going to pause it so you don't have to listen to that. Alright. Another quick tech tip. If you want to save the crank pulley, don't use something metal to beat on it to get it off of there. That's done. But I'm not going to reuse it. I was ready to get this thing out of here. So as far as the crank pulley goes, see this ring right here, a little rubber, I assume rubber, in between there. And if you go to pull on this outer half, you can actually separate these two. And it'll be so small that you wouldn't know it, and it'd throw it out of balance. You'd be wondering why you're throwing belts and why things not running the way it's supposed to. If you pull on this outer ring, that's what you can do. So you always want to make sure that you're pulling these lips. So that's what those are there for, is to grab a hold of those and pull that off of there. If you get to where you're stuck and you need to reuse your crank pulley, I ran out of room on what I had, so you can actually use a spacer. Something solid would work. You can use wood, but you might start digging into the wood as opposed to actually pulling the crank pulley off of the crankshaft, the nose of the crankshaft here. So something sturdy and metal you could use to shim in between the crank bolt. Where'd that go? There it is. And the end of your jaw puller if you need to get more room. You don't want to beat the snot out of your crank pulley like I did. So actually put shims in between these two so you get more pull to pull it off there, because you also, even though you're not going to reuse this, you shouldn't, it's another torque to yield that the threads actually stretch when you torque it down. But anyway, you want to make sure that you have a good amount of thread, decent amount of threads on this, so you don't strip your threads in your crankshaft, especially if you're going to be reusing your crank. You don't want to do that. So really, if you have to, make sure you get this thing a decent bite in there where you're not going to pull those last few threads in your crank out, and then put a shim up here for your jaws to go against the shim out if you need to, so you have plenty of room. So that's one idea, one thought. Obviously a softer mallet, or put a piece of wood up against this and then hit that. Some basics to where you're not going to tear up what you're actually hitting. Probably what I should have done, so somebody could reuse this, but now it's just a nice little paperweight for somebody's desk. So once you get that out, if you're doing a camshaft swap, that opens everything up. So this is timing cover. I'll do all that on another time. I'm out of time today for what I can do. But we'll get the timing cover off, the rear plate, start digging into more of the internals and start working to actually open everything up in here. So finally got this thing off of here. that was a nice, big, fun step. Fortunately, I had a friend with the impact to help me out there. So if you don't own a lot of tools, make sure you got friends that do. It's another tech tip for today. That's all I got for this one. Make sure you guys continue to tune in. If you have any questions, comments, anything you want to see specifically, let me know. I do promise that as soon as the supply chain thing goes away, I'm able to finish this project, that I'll have more stuff with the Impala and the nice big block that's been sitting here for a while. Believe me, I'm excited to get going on that too. So see you guys on the next one.